مساء الخير. I call this session the cool session, not only because it's the last session, but we are media people, we believe, or we would like to believe we are cool people. So we'll be talking about arts, films, and media. I'm very delighted to be here with you today to introduce and to moderate this session on project management and arts. I was very lucky to attend many of the discussions on project management, and in one of the workshops I raised the question about our work as media people. We usually care about deadline. I don't care how you do the job, at the end of the day I have a deadline to meet. Apparently the project management process is somehow complicated, maybe sophisticated. So today we would like to hear more about the production itself, the process of managing and directing and producing a film or a movie or a media project like your experience, Khadeeja. We are lucky to have 3 stars from Dubai. Unfortunately, sometimes, and I have to bring it up with you, of course, in this session, sometimes when we talk about Dubai, they associate Dubai with only business, economic growth, and real estate. In fact, there are so many interesting activities, and there are so many, creative brains in this town. 3 of them are with us today. Let me, the time is very limited. I don't want to spend more time in the introduction. I'll go directly and ask you, Nayla and Khaja, about Malal, the film, the very popular movie you produced many years back. Just take us through the process. How did you translate the idea of a movie into a successful product like Malal?
Thank you for the introduction. The film Malal, from the word itself, Malal, boredom. I was actually going to a conference just like this one in Sharjah, and it was really raining that day. It rained so much that the hotel I was in actually literally flooded. The lobby was completely flooded. So they gave us warnings not to leave our rooms. And I was stuck in a room for 24 hours. The TV was not working, and I was in a state of extreme boredom. I had nothing with me but a piece of paper and pen, and the film was created. So that was the creative process which inspired me to write a film and call it Malal, boredom. Then after that, what happened was, I wrote the idea. When you write something, you don't really think about the budget, the concept, who's going to fund it, what obstacles you might face, is it even doable in the first place? You could write a film that takes place in Mars. So you just write. And after I wrote it, then I put my different hat on, not the creative one, the project management one, and then I asked myself, how can I bring this concept, and please cut me if I'm talking too long, because I can go on. How can I take this concept and bring it to life? So the first thing you ask yourself is the feasibility of it. Is it something that the private investor or private sector or government will be interested in? So then I thought about it. The film was about arranged marriages, about a local woman and a local guy. They go to honeymoon, and because I couldn't afford taking them in the film to Switzerland or Germany, I took them to India. It was also a great opportunity for me to work with Bollywood crew, and I thought, why not, 2 in 1. So then I applied to different grants, and we spoke earlier in the backstage about government grants. At that point, the film was written in Sharjah. It was funded in Abu Dhabi by 2454, and it won an award in Dubai. So it did a nice little circle. I managed to raise the complete amount at 2454, which completely funded the film. And then we were able to shoot in India. What does that mean? That also means working with a new crew, getting a producer, a production manager, and a line producer who does the whole nitty-gritty, the logistics and all of that for the film, while I keep and preserve my creative vision for the film. Now, this is wonderful when you're working solo, when you're independent, but if I am commissioned by a government entity or a private entity to shoot a film of such nature, even with a bigger budget, there are a lot of other limitations. You have a client involved, you have their opinion, your creative concept can be changed dramatically. But you have to also respect yourself in the sense that you are creating it for, you have to have the understanding that you're creating it for an audience. So I think these are the skill sets that you learn as you get deeper in the field of filmmaking.
Excellent. I'll get back to you at one point, hopefully, this session about the budget in particular, because I think many young filmmakers within our region rightly complain about the lack of financial resources in order to produce films. But let me take the question to Khadeeja Marzooqi. You launched Dubai FM Radio in 2011, right? It took you 6 months, you and your team, to finish the job, to complete the job. Could you please take us through the process? Again, an interesting idea, radio station, from an idea into a product.
Basically, creating a radio station is like any other project. You should know exactly what you want from this radio station. You should know your audience, your stakeholders, what the market needs, what the salespeople have to say about the concept of the radio station. So in March 2011, we were instructed to create a musical radio station under the umbrella of Dubai Media. And we were given a deadline, which was first day of Eid at that year, which was 31st of August 2011. Hopefully, I think experience plays a great role here. If you did it once, we did Noor Dubai, it took us around 1 year plus 2 months. But we did Dubai FM, because of the experience that we got from creating that radio station, we knew some of the obstacles, some of the challenges that we might face, so we could overcome that, and we, alhamdulillah, did it within 6 months. There were a lot of elements involved in that project. First of all, the technical support, the technical requirements. That's a technical team. You need to supervise and sit with the technical team and give them their deadline also. There is the concept and the content. What exactly this radio is going to represent? What kind of shows, what kind of music, what kind of features, what kind of promos, sweepers, all of these things. That's the content team. You need to sit with the programming team, with the content team, and give them also their instructions and try to work a deadline with them. Plus, the thing was with our radio station is, at that time in DMI, we had only Noor Dubai radio station, which was an Islamic radio station. So we had 0 songs on the system. So we needed to create a library, a music library. So that's another team working on creating the library, putting the music policy, and trying to finish within the 6-month deadline. We need to have enough material to cover 24/7, which means you have to create a lot of playlists and songs. Plus the manpower and creating the team and trying to outsource and headhunt the right talents for that radio station. So there were many aspects to that project. I had a great team. I'll be honest with you, Doctor, that I had a great team working with me, experienced team, talented team. And
Khadeeja, sorry to interrupt. How do you choose your team during the process of establishing a media project?
Based on the elements that I talked about earlier, I need somebody who knows technical and radio. So I need somebody experienced in the technical aspect of radio broadcast, which is different than TV broadcast, which is different than the newspapers and the printing process. My main goal in outsourcing the team and trying to find the right talent is the passion. If they have the passion for it or not, if they love their job or not. If you love your job, you're going to stay 18 hours with 0 complaint. If you hate your job, you're going to stay 2 hours and complaining the whole 2 hours. So you need to be passionate about it, and you need to know and understand the difficulty and the uniqueness of working in media, especially in media broadcast, because it takes from your social life, it takes from your spending time with your friends, spending time with your family, especially if you're establishing something new. It needs you to be focused 24/7. A mistake can happen at 2 a.m. You need to be up, and you need maybe to go to the radio station. A mistake can happen at 4 p.m. and you need to be available. So you need to be passionate about the work, and I always look into that. Having all the capabilities, of course, but having that extra passion about their job.
I mean, there will be hopefully questions on the differences between being a good journalist and a good manager. Being a good journalist does not necessarily mean you are a good manager. So sometimes selecting certain positions in the leadership needs to be paid extra attention, I believe.
And Doctor, that sometimes the team leader has to also have that kind of intelligence to know exactly if person A can fit here and person B can fit here, and what's the best thing that person C can do for me, without taking from the other qualities and from the other team members. A team leader and a project manager should know that. I know people are good on ground, people are good for strategy, people are good for planning, people are good in implementing. So I need to find these qualities in my team member, and I need to direct them. One of the main things, especially for us in media, because it's a very time-consuming work. A crew of 10 people can be here in this conference working on a report takes 1 minute or 2 minutes only on TV. But nobody knows that 2 minutes, what it took that 2 minutes to be on TV. 10 people working and going back and editing and doing all of that. So especially when you lead the team in media, they need to be focused. They need to know exactly what they're doing, where they're going, and what your end result, what do you exactly want from them. The minute you give them that, they will deliver.
Ali, you produced and directed many interesting projects. I have to admit, I'm a huge fan of City of Life. Great job. How do you choose your team?
First of all, choosing your team, especially for a project that you're very passionate about, is also based on the experience you've had with them prior. See, films are very different to commercials, and they're also very different to documentaries. I have been lucky enough to be able to produce and direct all three of those. Feature films tend to last for a very long time. So the people you have to choose, you have to completely know you're going to get along with, because they're going to become like family to you. And that's why it's also very important, but not only in terms of personalities, but as well as skill set. You don't want to work with someone for the first week. I'll give you an example. Let's say a focus puller. A focus puller is someone who is right by the camera and make sure everything that you see on screen is sharp. And if someone is not experienced enough, he can't be able to work on the go, on the move, where all of a sudden we decide we're going to change that setup and we're going to move it over here. And he's going to be able to try and accommodate to whatever we decide. Someone who can't or does not have that exact skill set might be replaced. So you don't want to be in a position of being with people and having to replace people as the time goes by, because it creates a bit of some type of like a tension, really, on set. And the most important thing about being a director on set is that you have to make sure you turn up every day with a smile on your face. Because however you're feeling, it just, it transcends down to the entire crew. So it's important that you get along with your crew, and also that they definitely have the right skill set. And my next film now, which is being launched next month, the DOP, the director of photography, is the person in charge of the camera department, is the person that I worked with for the last 10 years. I've known him for 10 years. He did my graduation film from film school. He was actually B camera on City of Life. So this is the first time he's done a feature film, but because we have such a close relationship and we knew that this time around it's not going to be as luxurious as City of Life, but the City of Life's budget was much higher than this one, that we needed to be able to fully understand each other, and if tensions do get high, we know how to fix it. We know how to work with each other, and sometimes we even have like a secret word. We say super speeds. If we're sitting amongst all of the crew, and he has a decision and I have a decision, and all of a sudden, because of whether it be the temperature or whatever the situation on set, some people tend to get a little bit temperamental, and they don't want to end up losing it in front of people. So you have a certain word that you say to the other person is to say, calm down, or let's walk away and we discuss this. Because everything that you do, especially as a leader, is reflected in what everyone else does. Like you can turn up on set with a bad mood, and you're going to notice around you that no one's smiling anymore. It really does affect. So you have to be able to constantly, have the right energy, and always be able to answer any question that anybody from the crew has to ask. Because if you don't have the answers, automatically you start questioning your judgments. So regardless of whatever the question may be, you have to have an answer.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Okay, then
even if it's
Just offer them a
exactly, or even if it's I'll let you know in about 10-15 minutes and you can go think about it. But you have to know. You have to know.
Yep. But let me ask you, Ali, again on the main stages of managing a film project. Again, many people in the audience are not necessarily familiar with the process itself, so please take us through the process of producing and managing a film.
There are actually 6 stages when it comes to making a film. Again, film is different to a commercial and different to a documentary, although all 3 have a similar process in terms of practicality. You have the early stage, you have the shooting stage, and then you have the editing stage, which is the post-production. All 3 of them have that, but they all start at different times, and some are longer, some are shorter, some have different people involved. But when it comes to a feature film, I'll say 6. It would be, firstly, it would be the idea, really, and the development. So it's the development of that idea. The second stage would then take that idea and that development stage, which would include a treatment, which would be not necessarily a full script, it could be 10 pages outline on what the film is about. The second stage would actually start to go ahead and make a script based on that outline and on that treatment. And once you have a script, you would go to the third stage where you try to seek funding for this film. Because without a script, you don't have a film. And without money, you can't make the film. So once you get that script, you start going out and trying to seek financing for the movie, which in this region is very difficult. But not so much now, because from what I'm seeing around me, is the industry is growing in a beautiful way. When I first made City of Life, it was almost, well, when I first had the idea of City of Life, it was almost 9 years ago. It took me about 4.5 years to make City of Life.
Who funded the project?
That's also very interesting, because once it took me about 1.5 years to actually have the script, the development stage, the script stage, and when I was trying to look for the financing, nobody was interested. This was about a year when Dubai was at its boom, and a year before the financial crisis. So basically, I had tried to seek funding and knock on every door that was possible, that you can even think of, that might be able to fund this. And nobody was interested, because they would rather put X amount of money, because City of Life was an expensive movie, into real estate at the time. They weren't interested in the arts, and not only interested, but understood the power of this medium and culturally how effective it is. So then it took me a while to try and think, how can I raise the financing for this? And what I did realize what Dubai is very good at is advertising. And you can drive down Sheikh Zayed Road and it wouldn't be a split second before you see an ad. So it hit me. I said, I have several locations. I have several brands that are within my film, which is including Dubai Airport, Dubai Duty Free, Nakhil at the time. I mean, we were shooting the World Islands, I remember those days. There was several, even Pepsi got involved. So I managed to raise about 30% of the budget just on product placement. And once, you know, once you had that security, once you had that confidence, I guess, from other investors saying that actually people have financed this movie, we did manage to eventually get a silent investor who managed to fill the rest of it. But also, it's actually, RTA was also a very huge support for the film. I don't know if any of you have seen City of Life, it had a lot of taxis in it, and they were very, very supportive.
Maybe you'll get more money after this session. Nayla, your experience with funding, I know you are very much concerned about the financial aspect of filmmaking. Tell us about your experience, and do you agree with Ali that perhaps the situation nowadays is much better than, you know, let's say a few years back?
I think there's more interest. The whole filmmaking scene is much larger for sure. But the thing that I would really like to address is not just one filmmaker or one concept or one film. We need to create a film economy. That's what really interests me the most, the core product. You know, you have a banking sector, you want to have a filming sector. So instead of having one film or two films or three films a year, we need to have at least like 12 to 20 films. But how do we get to that stage? How do we get from A, you know, to Z by doing like the shortcut, which Dubai is very good at? But obviously this is not just, you know, building a, you know, putting cement and whatnot. This is something that will take time because we're developing a whole culture around film. The infrastructure is still at its very early stage. Something that we also discussed earlier on, it's extremely important that what the country can do as a government, they can put the first dirham in. What I mean by that, they can create a grant for feature film. Ali said something very interesting. He said, you know, it takes time to make a movie. It takes time to make an hour-and-a-half film that can have financial returns, that could be distributed in cinemas. So for a long format, I'm going to say this in Arabic, الفيلم الطويل عمره طويل والفيلم القصير عمره قصير. But we want to try to get more feature films done. But how do you do that? We need someone, a very strong government entity, to jumpstart this process by creating what we call a film grant. منحة ثقافية للأفلام الطويلة. This does not exist yet. I've been saying it for many years. I really wish someone here listening to take this forward, because what you're going to start doing, you're going to start producing 5 to 7 films a year. What will that do? That will be a huge byproduct for the country. We will be like ambassadors for the UAE to have our films all around the world, maybe even nominated for an Oscar. Today, a fantastic example, who's my role model, is Hayfa al-Mansour. You know, she did her film with some Saudi money and some local money, but also the first instigator, the first person that actually gave her a government grant was from Germany. So she was able to raise funds from there. The first dollar or, you know, German money came in from that sector. So it'll be really interesting to see the same kind of model, tailor-made for the UAE there. How do we do this? My concept is simple. It's just something that's been done and very successful in world festivals. Even so, I was in Canada for a few years and that model has been implemented there. You create a panel of film experts, and they receive, as Ali said, the most important thing is the script. You know, script is king. You don't have a script, you don't have a film. So people like myself and people who don't have the capability of raising funds. Ali is very clever because he has the capability of raising funds, but a lot of people are pure creative people who are film geniuses, but they have zero capabilities of raising money, which is the producer's role, by the way. So what do? They're in a fix. So what happens? They submit those scripts. We're talking practicality. They submit the script to a fund, to a panel, sorry. The panel looks at it, so they get, for example, I don't know, 20 scripts a year, 40 scripts a year, feature films, specifically feature film speaking. Then they filter them down to 5 top scripts. From the 5 top scripts, the government can fund 3 scripts. So every year already you have a machine that produces 3 films. Who knows what one film can do? So when if I'm a government official, I'm putting, you know, an amount that's comfortable for me, that's comfortable for the filmmaker to make his first feature film, that will help the filmmaker to have confidence, to give the private sector insurance, securities, that if the government put money in it, I will also match by another matching grant, or as he said, product placement, or the different type of funding like equity or gap financing. There are many different types of funding. And then what happens? You have a strong script because it's been filtered by a panel. You have a script that the government is happy with less censorship. You also have a script that is also funded by different entities and different ways of funding. And then you also have a result that can be extremely wonderful if it has an impact. You know, if we do today, I go to a lot of film festivals. I mean, I'm sure some of you have visited film festivals. And what really hurts is when I go to an international festival like Venice or Toronto or Sundance, you know, there's 0 UAE films. We have incredible ideas, but we need the government to think about this, to put up funding, not to solve Nayla and Ali's problem, but to solve all of the filmmakers in this country. So today we can really go out there and be ambassadors through filmmaking. It's a very powerful medium. We can really showcase our stories, our wonderful talent of filmmaking, and produce something that could also have big ROI. In sense of returns, film can have a longevity. You know, there are so many ancillaries where you can go, not just from cinema, pay on demand, DVD, you know, the list goes on and on and on. Today, even if I'm watching a film that was made 20 years ago, you know, that royalty, that person's still being paid. So we got to think about this as food for thought. It's something that's very interesting. We need to start thinking how we can create a film economy that focuses on producing films for the long term, also focuses on the byproducts like film education, film training. So it's really a larger picture that I want to look at, and not just solving, you know, 1 or 2 movies, but thinking of it as a whole.
Is the ideal, and I totally agree with you, Nayla, that these, let's say these institutes, or these panels, or as I was saying, these grants that are given internationally, where does that money come from?
You mean like as in from their taxpayers?
It comes, not only does it come from the taxpayers' money, it comes from, although, you know, alhamdulillah, we're tax-free here, but anyway, we're also, they have this idea where they take a percentage from their cinema sales.
Yes, recycling that money, perfect.
And it goes towards this grant.
Absolutely.
So it's almost feeding itself. You know, it's sustainable. And this is the one thing which I think is really important. Is fine, yes, the government can help with this, but the government should also look into the monopolies that we have here, or these cinemas, these cinema houses that we have that take over 50% of the ticket sales. When, if you can imagine, let's say you pay 35 dirhams. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember what's the price.
It's 35.
35 dirhams. If 2 of those dirhams, 2 dirhams of that goes to this grant you're talking about. The amount, actually, the UAE, based in the Gulf, has one of the biggest box office sales regionally. So imagine 2 dirhams out of that 1 ticket. You're going to have a decent amount of, you know, a yearly grant.
Ali, I would like just to focus the discussion on from a project management perspective.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to go on there. And also we didn't
It was our chance to say it, so.
And we don't want to talk about tax when we are invited by RTA. Khadeeja, how in media work, how do we maintain the quality, the creativity of media work when we sometimes work under pressure to meet deadlines?
It's a difficult formula. First, the deadlines that we need to work under. Second is the sales team. We always, as content creators, have that مثل ما يقولون struggle. We are always struggling with sales because they have their own idea of what the product has to be because they want to cater to the clients. We as content creators, as government also, we have our own idea of what kind of content we need and what message we want to give. So there is always that kind of struggle between us and sales, and our job, my job especially, is to make sure that our content is up to the quality and up to the standards and up to what we are supposed to do, and not go down that road where the sales can control everything. That's one of the most critical things that we face, actually, maybe more than the deadlines, because the deadlines, you have a cycle of work. We actually, our deadline is every minute and every second because we have an on-air radio station. So for us, the deadlines work as per the projects. We have timelines. Mistakes happen, delays happen, that's for sure. But the most important thing for us is to know exactly where the weaknesses are, what kind of mistakes we are making, and try to avoid it. I always tell my team, it's okay to make a mistake. That's the first time. Second time is not acceptable, third time is not acceptable. It's okay, make the mistake first time, just learn from it. So don't repeat it again. Nothing is perfect in my opinion. There are always some obstacles. So we try as much as we can to control the content, to create the right content for the audience, and try to keep these kind of obstacles and give the right guidance for the team. Okay, this is what you are supposed to do, and this is what we need. Of course, we have our own criteria of the quality of material, quality of wordings, sound, music, and all of that. That we have it, it's a policy that we have, we implemented. There is a process of checking the quality we already have in place.
Very nice. Ali, I'll ask you a technical question on the differences between a director and a producer. And also, is it a good idea as a filmmaker to wear the two hats, the director and producer, in one film?
The producer really is pretty much the project manager in terms of film. The director is the person who his vision is what you see on screen. And the producer is there to support the director in making sure that his vision is actually on screen. So I myself, I tend to do both. And it's not out of, it's purely based out of necessity. And because if I don't go out and try and raise the money to make my film is not going to get made. So that's when I have the producer hat on, and I try to, you know, whatever it takes, whichever institute now that's available, or who would also be interested in financing a film. It's the producer's job to raise that money. I did that on City of Life, and I've just done that on From A to B. You would think that after City of Life it would have been easier, the process of a producer to try and raise the financing. But I did City of Life, it released 5 years ago. It took me 4 years to make From A to B. So hopefully it doesn't take me 4 years to make a movie every time. But it's not an easy process, so you have to be a producer, a project manager, making sure that it actually, you know, comes to fruition. But once you reach that stage, and if you do wear two hats, once you reach the principal photography stage, or even just before in terms of pre-production, when you have to wear the creative hat, you have to be able to differentiate. You cannot. That's when you would have a producer who is obviously involved at the time with you, who then needs to hold the reins. And you have to give faith in this person. You have to, delegation is the most important thing, is to delegate. And you have to obviously have faith in this person, because everybody has their own skill set. It doesn't mean you delegate and then you walk away. As a producer, you still have to oversee what's going on. That's also very important, because it is your job.
Nayla, do you delegate?
I have no choice but to. I have to delegate. Sometimes it could be a one-man show, but I think filmmaking is very interesting because it's like a hierarchy. It's like the military. You have different ranks of people, and you got to manage them. They all work together, and everyone is so important. If I have, for example, a weak editor or a weak director of photography, the person who films, uses the camera, any person who could be weak in one department can actually ruin your whole project. So that's why choosing the right person for that specific role is so crucial to the success of the whole product or film. So I think it's extremely important to delegate it, to have a project manager, to have a producer who understand how the process of filmmaking is made, so that the director can have the luxury to be creative, and as I said, you know, his vision can come to screen by just focusing on how he can make a beautiful film, while you have people running around doing the whole every day to make sure everything is on time and on budget, because obviously you have to be very strict. Each shooting day can be extremely costly. So it's important to be extremely organized in the pre-production phase of making a film. So yes, it's very crucial to delegate, and that's the challenge that we filmmakers face here, because it's a very new industry. There's not much a lot of understanding around it thoroughly. So what ends up happening, people start producing and directing themselves, something I don't really encourage, but out of necessity we have to do it. It would be fantastic if we had, you know, a person specialized in each department. Sometimes we have to fly people in because we don't have the right personnel. Again, it's an industry that's very young, that will develop, and I know that the speed we're going on, it's very healthy. And I think in 10 years, again, we will see a lot of feature films coming out of this region. And I just hope that it will be more sustainable on its own, just like any other business in the UAE. And that people, like investors, will have faith in putting their money in the whole process.
I'll ask you, Khadeeja, the same question. In media management, when do you delegate and when you have to keep hands-on, especially with sensitive content sometimes?
You need to oversee the content always. Of course, you need there should be a process and authority of matters of authority, and people need to know exactly what they have to do. But in some occasions, yeah, you need yourself. Like, I'll give you an example. When we were covering the Expo announcement, I had to be there. We needed all to be there to make sure all the information, all the messaging is right. Day-to-day shows, day-to-day programs, yeah, the team can handle it, the presenter can handle it, they know their job, they know what to do. But special occasions, yeah, you need to be there, you need to have an overall look. One of the things that I always do, we have our weekly meeting. We always have our weekly meeting. We go through all of the issues, all of the comments, all of the things that come up content-wise, technical-wise, even small issues we discuss, problems they faced maybe on ground, on locations for coverage. That's very important. It just gives you as a team leader an overall view of what the team faces, and trying as much as you can to make their life easier, because the more their life is easier, the better product they give you. For me, one of the main things also in the radio, I don't care how many hours they stay. I know being part of the government, you need to punch in and punch out. That's something that, but being in media, I personally don't agree with that. Sometimes you get an employee sits there for 8 hours and does nothing creative, and somebody who comes 3 hours and present a great show with great feedbacks and call-ins and SMSs, and everybody's being interactive with him. That for me is what's important. Come 3 hours, do a great job, and go home. That's it. Don't come 8 hours and do nothing. So these are things that a team leader or project manager has to look into, just to make. Part of our job is also, as I said, is making their life easier, because we are team leaders supposed to be more experienced, and we should have more power, and we should be the people to give advice and to answer any question. We should have an answer for them, even if not on the spot. Yeah, we should have an answer, because they look up to us. And if we didn't do that and we are not up to that job, then where the team's going. So that's very important.
Yep. Nayla, what type of support do you expect or you hope for from the community? I don't want to, the time is not enough to talk about the support you expect from the government, just from the community. We talked about it earlier, but just share your ideas on the type or kind of support you hope for from the community.
There's a lot of support, I think, in terms of just moral support. There's a lot of that. There's abundance of moral support. I don't know, I mean, I started this initiative, thesceneclub.com, which is free for members, and that's where I've created a community of almost 9,000 people. I don't know if some of you have attended the club, and what the club does, it brings all the community together, and they're not necessarily filmmakers, they're engineers, dentists, you know, people from different parts of life, and what we do is we bring films that don't usually come to the cinemas, non-commercial films, independent films that were like best films in Venice or Berlin or Dubai Festival, Abu Dhabi, and we showcase them every month. What has that done? That's been running for 7 years now with Dubai Culture and DIPMF. It has created a community around that. a community that's been very supportive, and now we are getting a lot of brands involved in that to create workshops for filmmakers, especially first-time filmmakers. The other thing that I would like to quickly say, because I know we have just a minute, regarding project management, a lot of the times we deal with clients, and especially a lot of them are government officials here. We deal with government clients, and they have this concept or stereotype about filmmaking that you just get a man with a camera and go and shoot. It doesn't really behave this way. It's an education, it will take time, but really pre-production is very, very important. So just out of experience, you know, when someone comes and says, I want to film ready in a week and a half, it's hard, you know, unless I'm working 24 hours, it's either time, budget, quality. If one sector, you know, section falls off, the other two suffer. So just like any other section or sector, we have a lot of criteria to meet. We have a lot of people that are involved in making a film. So I would like our sector not to be underestimated, but to be given its right value, and also to be honored just like anything else with a proper contract and timeline, so we can deliver A-class products for you guys. Thank you.
Ali, the final word is yours. If I ask you for an advice for young filmmakers in UAE and in the Gulf, what that would be?
It would, no. Yeah, you would be crazy to become a filmmaker now. If you were truly passionate, and I'm not, and talented, I would say, definitely talent has a lot to do with it, but passionate, yes. You need to have 3 things that I usually say for you to be able to succeed. And I call them the 3 Ps. First of all, like I said, is passion. So you need to be passionate. And secondly, is patience. Because nothing happens quickly. Like I said, it took me 4 years to make one film, it took me 4 years to make another. But most importantly, is perseverance. If you truly believe in it, you fight for it, and it will happen.
Thank you very much, Nayla, Khaja, Ali Mostafa, Khadeeja, Marzooqi. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this session. And thank you all. Thank you.